Hi, Pat and Dina. Mayor Brandon Johnson says the hefty deficit is a reflection of the city's ongoing revenue challenges and rising costs. The $982.4 million shortfall for 2025.
So the mayor had to come up with a new plan because they weren't going to raise property taxes $300 million. So what about taking out an $800 million loan? And let's say it's for infrastructure.
Chicago City Council is set to vote today on Mayor Brandon Johnson's plan to borrow $830 million for maintenance and infrastructure projects. But that plan essentially kicks the can down the road for more debt to future taxpayers.
All right, so let's take a closer look at the main issue, the structure of the deal. It's $830 million in borrowed funds for things like construction projects, transportation, building maintenance.
But it was a slush fund that they claim they're going to use for infrastructure.
The thing is, if I was to step here, I'm no longer in Chicago. I've officially entered the domain of Morgan Stanley and the Emir of Abu Dhabi. That's right, in 2008, Chicago sold its streets to Morgan Stanley and a handful of investors for $1.157 billion. More specifically, they sold a 75-year lease on the city's 36,000 parking meters and their respective parking spaces. And until the year 2084, the people of Chicago will pay a private company anytime they want to park at a meter. And aside from Chicago undercharging Morgan Stanley and friends by billions of dollars, Chicago gave up something even more important: control of their streets. Anytime Chicago wants to have a parade or do road work or take a meter offline for any reason, the citizens of Chicago have to pay Morgan Stanley back for their supposedly lost revenue. In 2012 alone, the bill was $31.5 million, which, by the way, was more than Chicago was making from all 36,000 meters combined before they sold them to Morgan Stanley. And in a time...
The truth is that he's probably going to use it for his progressive priorities, like, for example, taking care of the illegals.
We have this international crisis that really requires federal intervention that local government is being asked to subsidize. Local government is not designed or built to handle such a crisis.
This crisis is expensive. The city of Chicago spent over $194 million on its new arrivals mission since October 2022.
Illegals, okay, and also trying to get the teachers union paid, the teachers union that he is technically on leave from. So what is going to happen is that he is going to lose his next election, and we're going to talk about why, because his approval rating is just humiliating at this point, right? Like it's like literally so low that it's almost unbelievable. Okay, we're going to talk about it, but he is probably going to rejoin the teachers union, okay, after he loses the election, and he will reap the benefit of the taxpayer dollars that he had to borrow in order to get the teachers union paid. Okay, he'll be long gone, right? And he's gonna make money. All his liberal friends are gonna make money, and that's essentially the game here in Chicago.
But it will cost taxpayers at least $2 billion when all is said and done. Under the original plan, the city would make interest-only payments starting in 2027. But the city wouldn't make any principal payments until 2045. That's 20 years from now, majorly inflating costs.
So the mayor says, hey, we're going to borrow $800 million now. We'll pay back $2 billion. And by the time you have to pay the money back, it'll be 20 years from now. And don't worry, I won't be around.
Critics say we shouldn't kick the can down the road on paying for all this to the next generation.
When my 5-year-old is 30, we will be paying $820 million over a period of 6 years on this very bond.
But the terms of this bond are ridiculous. Ridiculous. The fact that the first payment is not due until a new administration takes seat.
Now listen, it's obvious. Chicago has a big problem. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on migrants, and now they don't have enough money to take care of the regular stuff. And that's a shame because Brandon Johnson did them dirty, and he's out the door.
Yeah, this is hilarious to me because Brandon Johnson keeps gaslighting the American people by claiming that, well, I'm fighting for the people and they agree with my agenda and I'm working on their behalf. Well, clearly they're not feeling that, right? Clearly they're not buying into whatever Brandon Johnson is selling here, okay? They're rejecting him at an 80+% clip. And I told you guys when this dude was elected, I said that Chicago is going to find out the hard way what the progressive utopia looks like. That he's going to run this city into the ground. You thought Lightfoot was bad? This dude is even worse. How did Chicago end up electing a worse lunatic? Well, again, it's because they voted for Brandon Johnson based off his race, his skin color, right? Because he's a black man, right? He's a brother, right? That's why they voted for him.